Welcome to the Build Your Beautiful Business podcast with your host, Julie C. Butler. If you're looking to build the business of your dreams, then this is the space you want to be in. Join Julie as she talks about ways that you can successfully scale your profitable dream business, one that will give you ultimate time freedom and the abundant lifestyle you deserve. Julie will take you by the hand, sharing with you her business savvy strategies as she chats it up with her favorite online entrepreneurs. You'll get a weekly dose of boosted confidence as you learn as they reveal their insight, tips, and tools that you need to start building a profitable dream business of your own, one that you'll love and that works for you on autopilot.
Hi there. Welcome back to the BBB podcast. I'm your host, Julie C. Butler. And today we have the beautiful Danielle Levy with us. Hi, Danielle.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. It's good to finally have a conversation with you. I think I've been trying to schedule and reschedule all this for a few times now, but I always believe that the conversation or the interview or the meeting or whatever happens when it's supposed to happen. So I know that, today was meant to be.
Exactly.
Yeah. So today I have it's such an interesting topic that I was really excited to get into. But today you're going to talk about why skyscrapers aren't built with duct tape.
Yes.
I love that. I love that. So listen, Danielle, before we get started, I would love for you to take a moment to introduce yourself.
Yeah. So again, like you said, I'm Danielle Levy. I have about 15 years or so in digital communications consulting and direct agency experience, some of the best this side of the seacoast. And I got real burnt out and went to graduate school, came out even more burnt out. And I said, you know what? I want to just take the skills that I have and do something new. And I have been working as a COO, sometimes a chief of staff, an integrator for the past almost 10 years now. And it's been one of the best things that I've ever done, just having the opportunity. I tend to niche in service-based businesses, 7 figures, and really just working with some best-in-class organizations to make sure that they're growing and scaling the way that they need to.
Awesome. I love it. And where I forgot to ask you, I usually always ask before we get on the call. I'm like, where are you located?
Yes, I am in Boston, Mass, USA.
Ah, cool. I was in Ottawa, so we weren't too far from each other.
Yeah.
Now in Costa Rica, so a little bit further.
I am jealous. I was there about a year and a half ago.
Awesome.
Yeah, watch out
Yeah.
for the ants and for the monkeys, right? That's like your army that you have there.
The monkeys are actually not that bad. The ants, though, I'm gotten used to living with them now.
Yeah, they're mighty.
You have to. And the house that we were renting prior to the one we're renting now, it was like they were legit living with us. Like it was awful, but whatever.
That's all right.
We're in a new house now. Yeah, I mean it's normal to see ants on the floor and scorpion hanging from the curtain shower in the shower curtain in the bathroom.
Yeah.
You get used to those things. Part of a new reality.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'm excited to get started. So, okay, first of all, what do you mean by building with duct tape? What are some real life examples?
Sure. So I think a lot of the businesses that I have been involved with have started either as a side hustle or a passion project or something like that. And I think, as businesses grow, I think people just hustle more, right? Or they throw on, oh, we'll just put a Band-Aid of a person here, we'll put a Band-Aid of a person there. And before you know it, you've got like a full-fledged adult business, right? But if anything in the house of cards moves, you're in trouble, right? And so I think one of the most exciting parts for me is, I work with businesses at multiple levels. So, when they're realizing it's a legit stream of revenue, it will often come in. But then also, as businesses are scaling, you hit another ceiling and you break the processes that were working for you and you have to go next level. So it's constantly about this pattern of like growth and stabilize and growth and stabilize. And it's, for me, it's part of the fun and kind of part of, part of the adrenaline and the fun of the excitement of the whole thing is like, how do you grow and stabilize at the same time, right? Because otherwise you've got a situation that's all duct taped together,
Mhm.
and you just hope it doesn't come unstuck for any number of gazillion reasons.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And so for the listeners, I think that that could look like a lot of different things, but I think that sometimes we're thrown into our business because we have an amazing idea and we are all amazing at what we do. And so we can help like the masses, right? But we're not like whatever you're good at is your zone of genius. And sometimes building your business kind of falls to the side because that's not maybe your zone of genius. And so maybe we like, oh well, you know what, I'm just going to create this lead magnet for now, and it's it's just going to do. And then, oh, maybe I'll just do this, just like like temporary kind of like situations, and when I get there, then I'll fix this stuff, right? But then I guess it could just all crumbling down. And really, like, why not take the time to do it right in the first place? Because then you're next thing you know, you've wasted like 2 years, and you're still wondering like, why is this not working? Because the it's not stable, right?
And what it costs you, rather than the cost of slowing down, the cost when it comes crumbling down at the least opportune time, is so much more significant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And did you have some real life examples?
Of when I've seen that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So this was actually a pretty incredible example for me. So it was a couple of years ago during the pandemic. And the nature of the pandemic actually created a beautiful business opportunity for one of my clients. What we didn't realize, we had a great team. We didn't realize that a couple of the passwords involved were tied to the business owner's personal accounts. She had set them up many, 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 many years before. We didn't think twice about it. And then unfortunately, one of the members of our team had a family pet pass away. So like our go-to person that knew how to kind of navigate some of these tricky things, plus this password from the Wayback Machine. Again, these are very, very insignificant things that have massive impact on a business. Actually, it was the most critical point in capturing this opportunity, and the opportunity nearly was lost completely. And it was an opportunity that was going to take this business from 7 figures to 8 figures. And it was all because passwords had not been set up correctly and they were tied to personal accounts. And there was one person on the team that had not systematized their items the way that they should have. And it was a mess.
Wow. Okay, so
You know,
sometimes things you wouldn't even think about.
wouldn't even think about. And you know what? It wasn't any, ill intention. It was that at no point anyone had slowed down and said, what is our plan B here? Has anyone taken an audit? It was, we'll deal with it later. We'll deal with it later. And oftentimes later just doesn't come.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Wow. So yeah, so that's a good example because I mean, at any point, like things like that can happen. So it's so important to take the time to set things up properly from the beginning, even though sometimes we need to go outside of our resources. Like sometimes if we don't have the resources, then we can look out to get the help that we need to set things up properly so that it's built properly, right?
Yeah, and what you just said actually brought another example to mind for me. Even simple things like making sure you get your IP cared for by the attorneys, right? I've seen more clients have their materials ripped off or repurposed illegally, especially during critical seasonal periods. It's like, you know what, if you had just spent the whatever to get the privacy policy done or the terms and conditions done or any of those things, you'd be in much better shape. Again, it's not something that's intentional. It was just onto the next, and no one slowed down to kind of look around and say, all right, let's take a state of the state.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are important things. Like, like sometimes we don't think about them because, we think, oh, we're just a small business. And so it's not important, but those things are important, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So how do you build a business outside of yourself as a CEO?
I think exactly the way that you've described it.
Mm-hmm.
The CEO, regardless of legal state or what the government says, the CEO is an employee of the business. And how do CEOs learn to wear their CEO hat appropriately, and make the good and the bad hard decisions that they need to, but recognize that we are all in service to the business as an entity, and that the business, once you're able to separate the business as an entity from a high-paying salary, it becomes much more clear, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Good. That's good. And how does a business owner develop a team based on functionality rather than on individuals?
That's something that we deal with all of the time. I am such a people person. And especially as businesses grow and evolve, roles change and people have different skills and all of those kinds of things. But I have to tell you, one of my favorite exercises to go through is developing an accountability chart. I don't know if you're familiar with accountability charts.
No.
No. So you can think of an accountability chart, sort of, there's a couple ways to do them. I like to do them as a grid style with tons of rows in my Excel spreadsheet and all this sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it, looking like an org chart, but rather than placing names, you're placing functions. And when you look at it, sort of stripped of the person's name, and you just look at what does this box do, what does that box do, what is the reporting structure between them, it gives you a real clear picture of what functionality should be. And then once you have the functions, you can tie the KRAs to those.
I guess you could do the same if you were thinking of outsourcing things in your business, right? Like, so like if you want to outsource social media, or if you want to outsource, podcast, if you want to, like, you could like that. I love that org chart format.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think,
I was
mhm.
in training to take a project management exam many years ago. They always talk about the work breakdown structure and the building blocks that, what are the functions that need to be compliant? This plus this equals this, right? And that's how I always think about accountability charts and functions, or what are the
Mhm.
core at the simplest building block level, what is the thing that needs to get done?
Mhm. Yeah, and sometimes it's not easy to, to delegate some of these tasks, or sometimes like it's even like, okay, what can I delegate, right? And I think it's like starting to let go of some of the things yourself, like doing some of the things yourself, I think can be hard for some of us, and letting go that stuff.
I would agree with it. So it's interesting because I experience that a lot with my clients. And I experienced when I first started bringing on a team, I also experienced that. And then recently I was talking to my assistant, because we hired my assistant and an assistant. And she said, it's really hard because you just wanted to do it your way. You can do it faster. And I was like, I know it's really hard, but I have to say, to witness stuff that just happens, even in the time that you and I are having this conversation, there's stuff moving in my business that I don't even have to think about. And the
Mm-hmm.
power and the energy that I get from that and like feeling like that I can exhale, that if something comes up in my personal life or, even professionally, I had an opportunity recently to travel to a client's conference. There's a freedom that comes with that if you can figure out, who do you want to delegate to? And not only that, but what types of tasks can you give them and can you not give them? And what kind of training program is in support to protect the delegator, and I guess the delegator and the delegatee, I guess is what it would be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. And like, I think it can be so rewarding and so freeing for you, right? Once you start like letting go of some of that stuff. Like, what would you like top tips be for like kind of figuring out what you can like let go of, delegate, like,
Yeah, I would say anytime you feel a resistance to doing something, like it's always falling to the bottom of the to-do list or the bottom of the inbox, that's a good sign.
mm-hmm,
There are things that I don't even know why I have resistance to them, but I'll give them to a member of my team. And I'm like, if they can just get it 75% there, I can then run with it. But like at least like that mental hurdle of having to figure out the thing is gone. Um,
mm-hmm,
not anything, 99% of what I'm doing on a repeated basis, I can delegate. I say not
mm-hmm,
100% because there's certain things that I think people are still very attached to. Like I take care of my taxes every year. I'm not ever going to delegate. I mean, I delegate it to my CPA, but like I'm not ever going to let go of that. I make sure that my books are balanced every month. I'm not going to ever let go of that, right? But anything for the most part that's a reoccurring task, there is no reason why it can't be delegated.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I
You
know
know,
it's, and I think we start figuring it out like right when we start, and then we're like, okay, like this is easy. Okay, maybe I can like, how would it feel if I had them do this, right? And then I think you get into that kind of like phase of delegating.
yeah, and I also always delegate the stuff that I am not good with at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything visual is not my thing. I can make you a spreadsheet, I can make you a report, I can make you a white paper, but if you want me to make it pretty with colors and big font and little font, yeah. And not only is it not the thing that I like, I'm not good at it. It's not going to look good. It's going to kill any brain cells that I have for the day, and it's going to take me so much longer to get done than if I just delegated to someone who actually loves doing that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. I love it. So going back to the building with duct tape. So if someone's listening to this and they're like, oh shoot, like I've had my business for like 5 years, 10 years, like what would you suggest they do to look back and make sure that there's no duct tape holding their, like, is there something that you can like suggest that we do to make sure that we don't have, because sometimes we have duct tape holding parts of our business, we don't even know it, right? So like, what would you recommend we do to like look back and be like, oh yeah, like I should fix that now so that it doesn't crumble, like before it crumbles, I guess.
Yeah, I would say either get a business bestie or a coach or someone that's going to hold you accountable and do it in one day, which is going to be long and painful and miserable and bring lots of fun snacks and whatever else you need to relax. Um, and I separate my business into three parts. I go with the restaurant analogy. There's the front of the house, which is, your PR, your sales, your marketing, everything the public sees. The house, which is the thing that makes you your money, and then the back of the house, which is your finance, operations, all of that sort of stuff. And just between you and this other person, go through and list out everything. And I mean everything. And it doesn't matter how big, how small, you're not having to deal with it. But I do feel like identifying what can be done, and that's saying, okay, we've got, 500 items on this list. And then the next step is maybe just like they're in a spreadsheet, like I love tagging things with different color, e-tags, right? So you can either map them out by quarter or put them in by month. And then you're just working with a much smaller group. Like you don't mentally have to tackle the whole list, but you've got a
Mhm.
plan for how you're going to address it. And I think that's the thing is once you feel the momentum of just like, I'm just working through these, I'm ticking them off, I'm a little stuck on this one, I'm going to move. There's nothing in the business that's that bad. I think the hardest part is slowing down to figure out what has to get done that one time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I kind of did that because I was like, sometimes you start a project and it's not completely finished yet, but like you get excited about another project. And then that project is like not giving it its potential because A, you're not done it, or two, you needed to do other parts of it to like funnel or whatever, like welcome series, whatever that looks like. And then, I got into the habit of working on fun stuff, right? And so a lot of the things in my business were kind of sitting there, waiting for me to finish it or whatever, while I was working on like a summit, for example. Meanwhile, that stuff is not getting done. It's not making money. It's just sitting there instead of like really sitting down, like you said, mapping out, and just taking the time to actually finish each thing so that the business is working in full for you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think we can get caught in working on the things that are fun. And I know this because I've been doing it for like the last few years. So this time I was like, Julie, you are not allowed to host another summit until that stuff is done.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And taking accountability. Like I just like put accountability on myself and I stuck to it. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And we have to, if we want to. I think that we get caught and stuck in those places where, we get stuck, I think, in the tasks that we maybe don't like as much. For me, it's copy. And so whenever it comes time for copy, it's like, oh, you know what? Like I'll just plan a summit instead. Right? But it's so silly, but it's so true. Instead of creating these two low ticket funnels that I've had in my head for like all this time that could have been done and working in the background while I'm, working on my summit. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Old habits are hard to break.
Yeah. 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 Awesome. Well, you have an amazing freebie. It's called Solo to CEO. Tell us a bit about what that is and why we all need to download it.
Yeah. So I think it goes to what you were saying, what we were talking about in terms of delegation, right? Solo to CEO is just what it sounds like, is how do you take yourself from being a solopreneur and really position yourself as the CEO? Who needs to be involved to support you? How do you know when to bring people in? If you're bringing people in, again, what is their function and that they're the things that they're going to be doing? And how can you grow a team, a large team, a small team, and really position yourself as the CEO and not the chief everything officer?
Yeah, the chief of everything. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So I'm going to have the link to that in the show notes for everybody. So make sure to grab that.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So Danielle, where can we find you and how can we work with like how if someone is listening to this and they're like, "Oh, I want to know more about Danielle." How can we work with you?
Sure. So my website is Danielle C. Levy. Um, I love DMs on Instagram, Danielle underscore C underscore Levy. And in terms of the kinds of things that I do, I'm in some ways, I'm a Jill of all trades, not in all ways. I really focus on client experience. I'm a people operations person in terms of workforce planning and legacy planning, retention strategies, that sort of thing. Even just, if you need someone to take a day like we were talking about and say, let's do an audit of your business, right? I'm happy to be that person that helps you to figure out like what are the blockers, where's the duct tape in my business, and help you to figure out like what the roadmap is for making sure that you're feeling super strong and super solid in what you've created.
Awesome. I love that. And I see that you have a C in your name too, Danielle C. Levy. I'm like Julie C. Butler.
Yes, I think I actually probably when I was in college bought my outright, like my Danielle Levy domain, and then come into, many years later, and I was like, why can't I buy this domain? And I had outsmarted myself, and I've been Danielle C. Levy ever since.
Oh, but does a C mean something?
It's a middle initial for Cheryl.
Oh, so same with me. But my reasoning's a bit different. Like years ago when I started my photography business, my logo just looked better with the C. So
Oh,
so it has become Julie C. Butler ever since. That's how people know me.
professional name.
Yes, and also, you know what? And my middle name is Carol, but at the time I was Julie C. Butler Photography.
Uh-huh.
There was actually in Canada another Julie Butler Photography in Canada. I know. So I was like, what?
Yeah.
I know, it was crazy, but yeah. So the Julie C. Butler has stayed all these years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now it's in everything now. So
Yeah, no going back
can't go
now.
back. Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Danielle. It's been so nice chatting with you. And of course, I will have all those links in the show notes for everybody to take a look at. And yeah, so thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. And if you're listening to this episode, I will talk to you in the next one.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Build Your Beautiful Business podcast. If you did, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Julie's included a link in the shows to make it nice and easy for you. And if you want to create a beautiful, profitable business of your own, make sure to go unlock your access to Julie's 6 must-have resources for female entrepreneurs. These resources will help you build and grow your business with simplicity and ease. You can find them at juliecbutler.com/freebie vault. We'll see you in the next episode.